Right, we're back at the big board and it's empty. So we've got a new thing to do, and we know we're going to do number 2, and that is all about the emotions. But we're doing the section of it which is emotion, right? So it's the emotional feeling people have and how they get it. And in number 1, we're going to be doing the introduction of the slice. Okay, so we're going to go through it in quite a bit of detail, but we're going to do that in 9 minutes. Right. As well as 9 minutes, we use a real life example. And you'll get this one straight away because it depends what country you live in and it depends how you live, but generally we're going to use the weather, and that changes a lot. And I'm just going to put that there for now just as the example. But how we're going to do this in the weather, we're going to explain why using this as an example can actually help people understand things in a certain way. So what we're going to do it because it's an important area in a certain style. But again, is this right for you? Well, helping the emotion and people's feelings is with money or finance. It's very important because even if you have hardly any money at all, or you have millions, the emotional feeling on people, even people who have millions, are not in a situation they want to be in. And we'll come back on that because I know some people find this surprising, but it's still that position. And to take control of your emotion means things can get done when they couldn't get done. So this is important too. So what we're going to do, we're going to look at it in a certain way. But when you look at people's emotions, it stretches a long way. The whole subject is hundreds of different emotions, but we're going to pick a certain few for this design that we're going to put together. And not just that, we're going to use something that was used years ago. It was invented years and years ago, but now the emojis and things like that are what people use every day. But I remember using my first one. It was when I got a phone in 1999, and that was one like this. So text like that, or how we used them years ago, it was all about trying to get that message across. And I found it a bit strange because, you know, it's a smiley face, but it's on its side of it. But when the emotions are strong in a certain way, where we have strong emotions, we're liable to fool ourselves. That was a quote from Carl Sagan. But this time, it is that things don't get done because the emotion takes control. And what we want to do is make sure we understand that, but can we take control? So what we're going to do, we're going to use a big board in a certain way. I'm still going to use the black pen in the fact area, but not only that, we're going to construct things and show you how the whole slice works. And this is very important. You also at this stage can just watch this and try and bring yourself on board with it, okay? And you might agree and disagree, but it doesn't matter at this stage. So are you ready? Right, so on the board, like before, if you remember this, we're going to break this down into 2 areas that we're going to separate, and we're going to use something to do it, and that was one of the barriers. And the barrier in this case is very important, and you'll see the difference between the 2, and you probably remember exactly what's going to happen. But not just that, we're going to break this into 2 as well, and this is all because we want a title for the entire slice, right? So we're going to build that in, and we're going to put that there, and then we've got this section and that one. And this is all the understanding of what they are, because the top one is the title of the whole thing. And that is basically the emotions, right? Now, in the emotions bit, which is the mixture, we're using the emotional area. The emotional, right? And in that section, the title for the whole thing, this is where we're going to break this down, because this is also in slice 2. This is where we're going to deal with slice 2. Now, I know we're going to go in the detail of it, but it's also going to be separated again. So this is the emotional bit and this section that we're going to focus on, right? Now, we're going to break that down, but a slightly different way, because I'm going to use a ruler. And we're going to put this at this level, and we're just going to take this all the way across, and it's a softer line, right? And the reason it's a softer line, I'll come back to that in a second, but we're going to explain why. So we just got that line there, and that's put that in place. So what we do down here, we're going to go through next. But before we get to that bit, there's another bit and another pen, and this is all about the red pen. And over here, if you remember, right, this is all about the checklist. And we need to bring something else in when we're discussing this checklist in that way. And again, if you remember, it's very important because this is Captain Checklist. Now, he's got there and he needs to understand that things are going to go the right way and he wants it done the right way. So what we're going to do at this stage is we're going to give him the red pen, and now it's all put together, we're going to go further, but he needs a salute before we can go. So, yes sir. But not just that, we've actually got something else that me and him want to put there for you. And this is all about something called now. There's a little one as well called then. Right? So with now and then put together, this is something we're just going to leave at this stage. We're not going to concentrate on it. We want you to think about it, because what's going to happen is the videos progress, that's going to change slightly, and when we get right to the end, we'll just ask you what is actually happening there. Right, I'll come back to it in a second. But same with emotion first. There's lots of emotional feelings, but we want a definition, and that is to understand it properly. And this is a strong feeling derived from one's circumstances, mood, or relationships with others, right? And it can be very personal and very different, and there are like 100 odd words about different emotions, but we're going to concentrate on the top 7. And the top 7 are there because this is what we're sharing with how we get people and the advice we give people. We're sharing this information because it's very relevant, and it could be still relevant in certain different levels for you. But before we do that, we're still then going to get on with not the words, we're going to get on with a system of an example. Now, the example is we're going to start this, and even if we start the emotional bit and we put one straight on the board, it's actually nothing that is going on at all. It's just a start. It's blank, right? But we're going to then start setting things up. In a real life example, we want to have different levels. So we're going to say, if we start at the basic, we're going to start right at the bottom, which is a 0. Now, what does that mean? Well, if we pick one of the emojis, what we mean by that is the emoji for the 0 position is just things are okay, right? It's just okay. But if we go up one and we go up a level, we can go up to number 1. Now, the number 1 is going to be slightly different. And this is actually a bit better than okay, and things are actually good. Right. Now, obviously, we can go up a little bit more, and we'll go up to another one, which is better than good, but that's registered as number 2. And this one is brilliant. Now, you can see the feeling developing, but also if I go back to 0, we could go down, and I could go all the way down to a -1. Now, if I'm doing a -1, and we know what 1 was good, what would -1 be? -1b would be bad, right? So things are not okay, they're bad. But even if we went lower than that, we'd go down to a -2, right? Now, the -2, if we go lower, and the emotion is trying to sort that out, we need that, and that is always going to be terrible. Now, we've put those there, but we also want a bit more of the example, and that's for the weather. So in the example for the weather, when it's brilliant, you know, the weather can be, the clouds around can be fine, they look very pretty, they're very nice. When it gets good, it could be, oh, there's a few more clouds around, the weather's changing a bit. But even when it gets to just okay, clouds are getting a bit darker, you know, for me, I'm not sure about this, but it's okay. And even when we go darker and darker, it's good, oh god, the clouds are getting very dark, it could be into a bit of a storm coming. And even when you get to terrible, it can be such dark clouds, I'm just going to go inside. You know, so that position that you're trying to get is this example. From what we're going to test with the example is, with Mr. Checklist, he wants to test an example for you, right? So the first one in the example is he wants to know, would you score something and give us the answer to the question related to, is it brilliant, it's okay, it's terrible, it's bad, or it's good? And the question is, number 1, what would you score your job now? Right? So we just want to know what that is, and that's just how you feel about the job you're doing, the work you're doing now. Just out of an interest, but the first example. Give him that back. So it's a great start, but what we want to make sure is that we get going, because if you didn't do something like this, we don't focus on it, it can be the emotion takes over and nothing gets done. But then not just that, it could be I ended up having something that I didn't want because the emotion previously meant I didn't do anything. So we need to concentrate on it. So at this stage, even with you might be thinking, you know, well, in section 2 in my folder, I've started writing things down, or it might be that you've just saved it on the system as well. But we're going to take it further, because you're going to give yourself a big green tick, whoop, there, and we're going to take jigsaw piece number 1 and we're going to do the side, and you're going to score it as red. I'm not sure about this. Amber, yeah, I think I might want to watch this again. Or green, which is, yeah, fine, carry on, let's go. So even in this position, what we're going to do next is we're going to start looking in the details of the emotions themselves, why they're happening, what's the reasons, and we're going to get you to still keep scoring things, okay? So the other thing is we're going to quickly just look at the pillar. Well, you know, it's all about the thinking process, and that's what the emotion is. It's in the head, but at the same time, it's such an important thing, like the jigsaws, it's half of the whole easy board position we're trying to get to the results from. But at the same time, I've got a question for you on that, is that how do you feel at the moment? What do you genuinely feel? And you can tell me in the next one. So what we're going to do, we're going to take number 1, and I'll see you on the other side very quickly, and we'll look at the score. But actually, I'm just with me. I've got to do a bit of ironing right now, so I'm going to use that one.